Shalom everyone and good evening from Jerusalem. This is Amir Tsarfati. I'm on a special Middle East update that is going to deal with two major things. One, just about 2 hours ago, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came out with a dramatic statement that he intends, as the first Prime Minister ever since 1967, since the 6 Days War, since Israel took the West Bank and the Jordan Valley, this is the first time a Prime Minister is declaring that he intends to not only enforce the Israeli law in all of the Israeli settlements in the West Bank, but to annex the Jordan Valley and the northern part of the Dead Sea. For the longest time, since 1967, the international community is looking into the West Bank, the western banks of the River Jordan, as an occupied territory. The problem is, according to the international law, you cannot occupy territory when you don't have a country that you took it from. Israel already has peace with Jordan. Jordan already has a border with Israel. Therefore, if we took the West Bank from Jordan when Jordan was there, how come Jordan does not demand it back? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time in history that the world is calling a place occupied territory, but not because we occupied it from someone, but because the world intends to have it for someone else. It's very interesting because you and I know that never in the history of planet Earth there was ever a Palestinian state. The Palestinians themselves do not even exist as a nation. They are groups of Arabs who came from different parts of the Middle East and flocked into the land that was then called Palestine, mostly because of the Jewish immigration into the land of Israel at the end of the 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s. They did not even think for a second that there will ever be a nation that will demand its own state. The idea of a Palestinian state is just something that was born after Israel actually was born, and more so after Israel won the 6 Days War. Palestinians did not demand a Palestinian state when Jordan controlled the West Bank, but suddenly when Israel took it, now in order to fight the Zionist entity, we need to underwrite our rights to have our own state. And the world fell for it, and the deception continued. And I would like to divert your attention and direct your attention to a message that I gave. It's online on our YouTube channel called The Deception of the Nations. All the facts are there, all the numbers are there, and you will be quite surprised. However, this is the first time today that a Prime Minister of Israel is acknowledging the intention to annex part of the West Bank as an Israeli integral part of the country. We did so when it came to the Golan Heights in December of 1981, and it took us 38 years until America acknowledged the Golan Heights as Israeli territory. That was a remarkable victory for Prime Minister Netanyahu, a great statesmanship of a great politician and a very great statesman. And what we are watching right now is the preparation of Netanyahu for the day after the elections, when President Donald Trump will release the deal of the century. Israel wants to make sure that any future agreement with the Palestinians will never include them controlling any border with any Arab country such as Jordan. And therefore Israel is intending to annex the Jordan Valley and the northern part of the Dead Sea. Folks, it's not like we're not there. It's not like we don't control the place. We are there. We control the place. But on the paper, as far as the international community is concerned, this is an occupied territory. Although, again, it's against the international law because we didn't occupy it from any other country. They just prepare it for someone who doesn't have a country at all. Now, this is a remarkable thing. It's an opportunity that has not been there for 50 years and may not be there in the future. Maybe this is one of the reasons we have a president such as President Trump in the White House, and this is maybe one of the reasons we have Prime Minister as Netanyahu as our Prime Minister here in the country. But I want you to know, folks, it is beyond dramatic, and we are going to see how it is going to affect the voting of the Israeli public exactly a week from today. On September 17th, the Israeli people are going back to vote for the parties in the parliament, and of course the largest party will have its leader getting a mandate to form a government, and Benjamin Netanyahu hopes that by declaring that he intends to annex the west part of the West Bank, which is the Jordan Valley, he will get more and more people from the right wing to vote for him. I would like also to tell you, folks, that Netanyahu said that he would have never said these things without a full collaboration with the White House. And I want you to know that I believe that he did speak to President Trump before he came out and declared that that's his intention. If you guys followed me for the last year or 2 years regarding the deal of the century, I've said more than once that the deal of the century is not going to give Jerusalem to the Palestinians. It's not going to give borders with other countries to the Palestinians. It's certainly not going to cause them to bring millions of refugees from other countries to our country. The deal of the century is predominantly causing the Palestinians to understand that in their current situation, their life can be much better if they only took care of their own people now in their current situation and not dream of things that will never come true. In fact, we know that there is a sobering up among the Palestinians by the number of people that are leaving the West Bank and Gaza every month to either Egypt and Turkey or straight to Europe or America, because they understand their dream to kick the Jews out and to establish a Palestinian state as in all over what they call Palestine is never going to happen. And so they sobered up, they understand it's not going to happen, and of course they start leaving by the hundreds every week, by the thousands every month, and we see that side by side with the negative immigration, with them leaving the area, Jewish immigration back into the land of Israel is in full strength, full power. People come from France, people come from Britain, people come all across Europe, people even come from America, realizing that the safest place for the Jewish people, probably the most prosperous place they can find right now, is the land of Israel, is the state of Israel, and that's where they belong. Now, I would like to also inform you, folks, that in the last 48 hours, Israel struck twice in Iraq. The first strike took place hours after I was done with my Middle East update on Sunday evening here in Israel. I gave it from the Sea of Galilee. Israel struck the border town of Abu Kamal, which is part of the Iranian grand plan for a land bridge all the way from Tehran across Iran, across Iraq, into Syria, and of course to the Mediterranean, and of course by doing so getting closer and closer to Israel, and for their fantasy to destroy us and annihilate us. Israel has been targeting that land bridge, and we've been destroying their facilities, their weapon depots, and what we did 2.5 days ago was we destroyed the largest military camp they ever built right there on that border of Abu Kamal on the Iraqi side, and at least 40. I am very, very sorry, but the internet connection cut off. Not sure why. Let's pick it up from where we stopped, folks. I'm sorry. I believe there's a lot of opposition to what I'm saying. a lot of opposition to what I'm reporting, a lot of opposition to what I'm teaching, and I'm not sure who interrupted this, but my phone just completely shut down and I just started all over again. So my point is that Israel striked the border town of Abu Kamal, and at least 40 Iranians got killed. Well, a night later, last night, Israel struck again, and this time Israel struck in a completely different governorate in Iraq, and another weapons depot of Iran was destroyed. The Iranians are outraged. If that's not enough, Prime Minister Netanyahu came out yesterday with a very dramatic revelation that what he exposed from the UN 2 years ago about the site in the Tur Khuzabad in June 2018, Prime Minister Netanyahu exposed that in the site in Tur Khuzabad, the Iranians are having nuclear weapons development there. And this is hidden from the eyes of the whole world. Nobody knows about it. They claim that this is a factory to clean carpets. Well, guess what? The the International Atomic Energy IAEA, they just went to Iran to check that site in Turkuzabad, and they found traces of uranium. Guys, the last time I checked, you don't need uranium to clean carpets. Well, yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu said that there is another site south of Isfahan in a place called Abadeh, and there is one more nuclear weapons development site. And again, Abadeh is southeast of Isfahan, and that tells you that the place is under very close supervision of the Israeli Mossad. I want to tell you something. The minute the Iranians realized we are on top of that, they started cleaning up, they started removing things. We've got in late June everything, and then in late July, when they realized we found it, they dismantled everything. I believe that if the International Atomic Agency, Atomic Energy Agency people will go there, they'll find even there traces of uranium, because that's who we are dealing with. The Iranians are being embarrassed by the hour. It's not even by the day anymore. I'm not even sure what tonight is going to bring. By the way, the night between 2 nights ago and last night, in an attempt for a quick revenge on the Israeli attack in Abu Kamal, they fired rockets from Syria towards Israel, and they missed all of them. All of their rockets fell on Syrian soil. And that is, of course, one more thing that they're very, very much are embarrassed with. Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Netanyahu said to the Iranians, we know what you do, where you do it, and when you do it. So just so you know, there's quite a few people in the Iranian circle that are most likely on the Israeli Mossad payroll. And the Iranians are so embarrassed because people from the innermost circles are actually tipping information to the Israeli Mossad and to the Israeli secret services, and we understand what's going on there. Now, of course, the minute they realize somebody leaked information, they start immediately with a covering up. But as it was in the site of Turkuzabad in June of 2018, now in July of 2019 in Abadeh, they are doing the same thing. They found out that we know, and they immediately covered up and started clearing up the site. And we see it as of the end of September of 2018. They had a lot of stuff, and now there's a gravel cover right over it. Folks, things are heating up. The Iranians, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, who else? Turkey, Sudan, Libya, and of course I believe other countries do not want Prime Minister Netanyahu to win the elections. And they're going to try and do whatever it takes to embarrass him towards the last few days before the elections. We pray and hope that they will not succeed. But I do want to tell you that more than ever before, you have to pray, not just for the peace of Jerusalem, but for the safety and the security of Israel, and to give us more and more wisdom and discernment to find out who is doing what and where, and destroy it before they get to do so. So, again, that was a quick Middle East update regarding the dramatic declaration of Prime Minister Netanyahu regarding his intention to annex the Golan Heights, to annex the Jordan Valley. And of course, I also reported on the last 2 Israeli strikes within Iraqi soil on Iranian targets, their attempt to revenge it, and one more unveiling of yet another nuclear site that was hidden from the whole world, especially from the International Atomic Energy Association or agency. And now Israel is just putting things on the table and saying to the whole world, look, before they cover up everything, you better go and find for yourself that even there, not only in Turkazabad but also in Abadin, go and find traces of uranium. Folks, as I said before, they do not clean carpets in those places. They are not selling fruits in those places. They are not preparing, some sort of, I don't know. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that they are deceiving the world, and I hope that President Trump is not going to fall into the trap of believing them. Now, I know that the National Security Advisor John Bolton was fired. Some say that he actually submitted his resignation and President Trump accepted it. In other reports, it says that President Trump fired him. The disagreement between the two of them was over the intention of President Trump to host leaders of the Taliban at Camp David for peace talks, and of course to advance some of the peace in Afghanistan. I'm not sure if President Rouhani and President Trump are going to meet in light of the new revelations. I'm not sure if they're going to meet in the UN at the end of this month, but at least with the Taliban, President Trump thinks differently than Ambassador Bolton, and it's a great loss for us, Israel. Bolton is a true friend of Israel, and we truly hope that he is going to be replaced by someone as good. I also want to tell you that Jason Greenblatt, the envoy for peace in Middle East, also stepped down, and we know that a 30-year-old Jewish guy, a good friend of Jared Kushner, is now filling up his place, and time will tell if this guy is as talented as Greenblatt was or not. All I know is right after the elections in Israel, things are going to heat up as the deal of the century is going to be on the table. And make no mistake, the Palestinians already rejected it. They're not interested in it. And of course, we're going to see some interesting attempts on both sides to gain more and more territory and to gain more and more sympathy and to gain more and more points. And this is why Netanyahu is very, very strictly announcing that Israel not only that is not going to allow Palestinian sovereignty along any border, but is actually seeking for annexation of those parts to the state of Israel, so that will be out of the question. This is it, folks. That's the short update. I hope you guys understand what really happened today. Dramatic, historic. By all means, first time ever an Israeli Prime Minister is talking about annexation of parts of the West Bank. Let's see if it's going to help Netanyahu in the elections. I'm not sure. It's going to be a very tough fight for him to win the 61 seats in the parliament that would enable him to form a government. But time will tell, folks. All we need, as I said in the last update, is to pray that the people will vote for the right leader and not kick just because they grew fat, and they are spoiled, and it's too good for them. I read from Deuteronomy 32, the Song of Moses, and how Israel had it so well and so good that they start looking into other gods and other things. And as Jeshurun, one of the names of Israel, as he grew fat, he started kicking. That's what the Bible says. It's actually a poetic way to describe how people, when everything is too good, they actually getting too spoiled, and they want something else. They want something different. I hope it's not going to happen. I pray and hope that the people of Israel will be smart enough to understand that the best person to run the country when it comes to the deal of the century, when it comes to relationship with President Trump, President Putin, and with other world leaders is no one else but Benjamin Netanyahu. And the same goes with America. Next year, I hope people understand that the lunatics of the Democratic Party are nothing but a great disaster, the best president America had in so many years, and the one who turned their economy completely, and the one who returned to America its greatness. I hope and pray that the American people will be smart enough to re-elect President Trump. Thank you again. God bless you, and shalom from Jerusalem. Bye-bye.